People often focus on the actions of their hands or the steps of their feet, yet the tongue is perhaps the most active traveler of all, crossing distances between souls with the speed of light and the weight of destiny. In the ancient wisdom that has been passed down through generations, there is a profound understanding of the power of speech, an energy that can build bridges or burn them down with equal ease. To understand how these sounds shape our reality, you might want to look at how a simple conversation can change the entire atmosphere of a room, making it either a sanctuary of peace or a battlefield of hidden tensions. There was a time in the history of the wandering monks when a young man sought to understand why his life felt like a series of heavy storms, despite his efforts to be generous and kind in his physical deeds. He approached a wise elder who sat quietly beneath the shade of a spreading banyan tree, and as he spoke, his voice was filled with a bitterness that he did not even recognize as his own. He complained about the unfairness of the world, the faults of his neighbors, and the constant friction he felt with his family, all while believing that his words were merely a reflection of the truth. The elder listened with a gentle smile, noticing how the young man's words were like sharp pebbles being tossed into a calm pond, creating endless jagged ripples that disturbed the reflections of the sky. The elder did not lecture him on rules or laws, but instead asked him to go and gather a bag full of dry feathers and place one feather on the doorstep of every house in the village. The young man was confused by this strange request, yet he followed the instructions carefully, walking through the dusty streets and leaving a single light feather at each entrance until his bag was completely empty. When he returned, the elder told him that the second part of the task was to go back and collect every single feather, returning them all to the bag so that not one was missing. You can imagine the look of realization on the young man's face as he looked out at the windy afternoon, knowing that the feathers had already been carried away by the breeze, some trapped in tall trees, others swept into the river, and many lost forever in the distant fields. The elder then looked into his eyes and explained that words are exactly like those feathers, for once they leave the lips, they are caught by the winds of the world and can never truly be taken back or fully erased from existence. This realization is the beginning of understanding the profound nature of what is often called the karma of speech, a concept that is not about punishment or judgment, but about the simple and natural law of cause and effect. Every time you speak a word of kindness, you are releasing a feather of light that brings comfort to someone's heavy heart, but every time a word of malice or falsehood escapes, it becomes a sharp edge that cuts through the fabric of trust. It is fascinating to realize that our mouths are like a workshop where we are constantly forging the tools of our own future happiness or sorrow, yet we often operate these tools with very little awareness. Many people go through their entire day reacting to their emotions, letting their tongues become the servants of their momentary anger or their fleeting pride, without seeing the long shadows these habits cast over their spiritual path. In the stories of the past, there is a beautiful account of a follower who was known for his incredible eloquence, yet he used his talent primarily to highlight the flaws of others, believing that his sharp wit was a sign of superior intelligence. He would stand in the market square and describe the imperfections of the merchants, the mistakes of the travelers, and even the minor lapses of his own friends, all while the crowd laughed at his cleverness. However, as the years went by, this man found that although many people laughed with him, no one truly wanted to stand near him, and his own heart felt increasingly cold and hollow, like a house that has been stripped of all its warmth. He eventually found himself sitting in the presence of a great teacher, and for the first time in his life, he felt the weight of the silence that his own words had created around him. The teacher looked at him with such profound compassion that the man felt his defensive walls crumble, realizing that his clever speech had been a wall rather than a bridge. The teacher explained that the energy of our speech is tied directly to the purity of our intentions, and when we speak to hurt or to elevate ourselves at the expense of others, we are effectively poisoning the very air we breathe. To speak with awareness is to treat every word as a sacred offering, something that is given to the world to foster harmony and understanding rather than discord. If you look at the way children speak before they learn the complexities of social masks, you see a directness that is often coupled with a natural innocence, yet as they grow, they begin to see the power of words to manipulate and defend. Reclaiming that purity of speech does not mean becoming silent or losing one's personality, but rather it means aligning the vibration of our voice with the deepest values of our heart. When you sit quietly and observe the flow of your thoughts, you can see the seeds of speech before they even blossom into sound, and this is where the true work begins. There is a specific kind of internal quiet that allows us to catch the impulse to criticize or to boast before it reaches the tongue, giving us a precious moment of choice. It is in that split second of awareness that we can transform a potential conflict into a moment of grace, simply by choosing a word that heals instead of one that wounds. Everyone has experienced the sting of a harsh word that stays with them for years, a ghost that haunts their confidence and shapes their self-image, showing just how enduring the karma of speech can be. Conversely, a single word of genuine encouragement, spoken at the right moment, can be the catalyst that saves a life or inspires a person to achieve greatness they never thought possible. The ancient scriptures speak of 4 specific ways in which the tongue can create negative energy, which are lying, divisive speech, harsh language, and idle gossip, and each of these acts as a different kind of fog that obscures the light of the soul. Lying is perhaps the most deceptive because it creates a false reality, forcing the speaker to build more and more lies to support the first one, until they are trapped in a labyrinth of their own making. This lack of honesty not only misleads others but also creates a fundamental disconnect within the self, making it impossible to feel truly grounded or at peace. Divisive speech is equally damaging, as it involves carrying stories from one person to another with the intent to create a rift, like a person who fans the flames of a small fire until it consumes a whole forest. This behavior stems from a deep-seated insecurity that seeks to find power in the destruction of relationships, yet the ultimate victim is always the speaker, who becomes isolated and untrusted by everyone. Harsh language is the sudden explosion of anger that uses words as weapons, intended to inflict pain and demonstrate dominance in a moment of frustration. While the anger might pass quickly, the scars left by those words can last a lifetime, creating a legacy of resentment that is difficult to dissolve even with many apologies. Then there is idle gossip, which seems harmless to many, yet it is like a slow leak in a boat that eventually causes it to sink, for it wastes the precious energy of our life on things that are neither true nor beneficial. Gossip turns the mind into a dumping ground for the trivialities and misfortunes of others, preventing us from focusing on our own growth and the beauty that exists in the present moment. To transform these habits, it is helpful to look at the life of those who have mastered the art of right speech, those whose every word is like a cooling rain on a parched land. There is a story of a woman who lived in a small village and was known for her ability to settle any dispute simply by the way she spoke to both parties involved. She did not take sides, nor did she use complex logic, but she spoke with a sincerity that made everyone feel heard and respected, dissolving the anger that fueled their arguments. When asked about her secret, she said that before she spoke, she always asked herself if her words were true, if they were necessary, and if they were kind, and if the answer to any of those was no, she simply remains silent. This simple practice is a powerful shield against the creation of negative karma, as it forces us to filter our speech through the wisdom of the heart. The silence she practiced was not a cold or empty silence, but a rich and vibrant one that was full of presence and attention, allowing her to hear the things that were left unsaid. In our modern world, where there is a constant pressure to speak, to post, and to express every fleeting opinion, the value of this mindful silence is often forgotten. We are surrounded by a digital landscape that encourages quick reactions and sharp comments, creating a collective atmosphere that is often heavy with the karma of unconsidered words. Taking a step back and choosing to speak with intention is a radical act of love for oneself and for the world, a way of saying that we value the peace of our minds more than the satisfaction of a clever comeback. As you navigate your day, you might find it interesting to notice the physical sensation in your body when you are about to speak something that is not entirely true or kind. Often, there is a slight tightness in the chest or a dryness in the throat, a subtle warning from your inner being that you are about to step off the path of harmony. By paying attention to these signals, you can begin to train your tongue to be an instrument of light, a source of comfort for the weary and a voice of truth in a world of confusion. This journey of refining our speech is not a path of perfection, but a path of continuous practice, where every mistake is an opportunity to learn and every success is a step toward a more peaceful life. There is a profound joy that comes from knowing that your words have contributed to the happiness of another, a warmth that fills your own heart and reinforces your sense of connection to all living beings. This is the beauty of the law of karma, for just as negative words bring suffering, positive words bring an abundance of joy and clarity that supports your spiritual journey. Imagine a world where everyone treated their speech as a precious resource, where every conversation was an opportunity to practice compassion and every word was chosen with care. While we cannot control how the world speaks, we have total control over the vibration we add to the collective atmosphere, and that is a powerful responsibility that we carry with us every moment. The stories of the ancients are not just myths from a distant time, but living mirrors that reflect our own struggles and potentials, guiding us toward a more awakened way of existing. By reflecting on the weight of our words, we begin to see that we are the architects of our own reality, building our future one sentence at a time. This path of mindful speech is a gentle one, requiring patience and self-compassion, as we slowly unlearn the habits of a lifetime and replace them with the rhythms of the soul. As we move deeper into this exploration, let us remember that the goal is not to be silent observers, but to be active participants who use the gift of language to celebrate life and honor the divinity in every person we meet. Every breath is a chance to start again, to speak a new truth, and to weave a different story that is filled with the light of understanding and the grace of a kind heart. Think for a moment about the people you admire most, those whose presence feels like a warm embrace and whose words always seem to carry a sense of deep integrity. They are often not the loudest people in the room, nor are they the ones who seek to dominate the conversation, but their words carry a weight and a clarity that commands a natural respect. This is the fruit of many years of practicing right speech, a testament to the fact that when we align our words with our inner truth, we become a source of strength for everyone around us. This strength is not one of force, but one of gentle persistence, a steady flame that cannot be extinguished by the winds of external opinion or the storms of life. In the quiet moments of the evening, when the world slows down and the noise of the day fades away, you can reflect on the words you have spoken and feel the energy they have left behind. Did your words bring a smile to a tired face, or did they add to the burden of someone already struggling with their own challenges? There is no need for guilt or self-criticism in this reflection, but rather a simple and honest observation that helps you refine your intentions for the day to come. Each day is a new canvas, and your words are the colors you use to paint the landscape of your life, making it a masterpiece of kindness or a sketch of forgotten potential. The relationship between our inner thoughts and our outer speech is like the relationship between the roots of a tree and its branches, for what is hidden below the surface eventually manifests in the light. If we cultivate a mind of compassion and equanimity, our speech will naturally reflect that peace, flowing out as a soothing balm for those who are hurting. On the other hand, if we allow the roots of our mind to be filled with judgment and resentment, those poisons will inevitably find their way into our words, no matter how hard we try to hide them. This is why the practice of mindfulness is so essential to the practice of right speech, as it allows us to tend to the garden of our mind and ensure that only the most beautiful seeds are allowed to grow. In the time of the Buddha, there was a man who was very proud of his vast knowledge and his ability to win any debate, often using his intellect to humiliate those who disagreed with him. He traveled from village to village, challenging the local scholars and leaving them feeling small and ignorant, convinced that his verbal victories were a sign of his greatness. When he finally encountered the Buddha, he expected another intellectual battle, another chance to prove his superiority through the clever use of words. However, the Buddha did not engage in a debate, but instead spoke to the man with such a profound and simple kindness that the man's entire strategy became irrelevant. The Buddha pointed out that a victory won through the humiliation of another is a hollow victory, for it only serves to increase the pride of the winner and the resentment of the loser, adding more suffering to the world. He explained that the true purpose of speech is not to prove oneself right, but to bring others closer to the truth and to help them find their own inner peace. The man was so moved by this perspective that he realized his entire life had been spent building a monument to his own ego, using his words as bricks and mortar. He decided to let go of his need for verbal dominance and instead began to use his eloquence to share the teachings of compassion and wisdom, finding a much deeper satisfaction in helping others than he ever did in defeating them. This story reminds us that the power of our speech is truly measured by its ability to serve others, rather than its ability to serve our own self-interest. Every word we speak is a vibration that travels through the universe, and it is said that nothing is ever truly lost, for the energy of our speech remains woven into the fabric of the cosmos. This might seem like a daunting thought, but it is also a source of great inspiration, for it means that every act of verbal kindness has a lasting impact that far exceeds the moment it was spoken. We are all part of a great symphony of sound, and our voice is a unique instrument that adds its own melody to the whole, contributing to the harmony or the discord of the world. By choosing to speak with love and clarity, we are tuning our instrument to the highest possible frequency, allowing our life to become a song of beauty that resonates with the hearts of all who hear it. The practice of right speech also involves learning how to listen, for true communication is a two-way flow that requires a deep and receptive presence. Often, we are so focused on what we want to say next that we only half listen to the person speaking to us, missing the subtle nuances and the emotional depth of their message. To listen with the heart is to give the other person the gift of our full attention, creating a safe space where they feel seen and understood without judgment. This kind of listening is in itself a form of right speech, for it communicates a profound respect and a genuine care that words alone can never express. In the quiet corners of our lives, we can find many opportunities to practice this deep listening, whether it is with a family member, a friend, or even a stranger we meet on our journey. When we listen with awareness, we often find that the other person's words are not just a collection of facts, but a window into their soul, revealing their hopes, their fears, and their longing for connection. By responding to this deeper level of communication, we can offer words that are truly meaningful and helpful, rather than just repeating the usual social pleasantries. This creates a level of intimacy and trust that is the foundation of all healthy relationships, allowing us to support each other in the most profound ways. The karma of speech is also closely tied to the way we talk to ourselves, the internal monologue that runs through our minds from the moment we wake up until we fall asleep. Many of us are far harsher with ourselves than we would ever be with a friend, using internal language that is filled with self-criticism and doubt. This negative self-talk creates a heavy internal atmosphere that saps our energy and prevents us from seeing our own inherent worth and potential. Learning to speak to ourselves with the same kindness and compassion that we offer to others is a vital part of our spiritual practice, a way of nurturing the inner child who is always listening. When we replace the voice of the inner critic with the voice of the inner mentor, we begin to see ourselves in a whole new light, recognizing our mistakes as lessons and our successes as milestones on the path. This shift in our internal speech has a direct impact on our outer speech, for it is much easier to be kind to others when we are being kind to ourselves. The peace that we cultivate within naturally flows outward, coloring our interactions with a sense of ease and authenticity that is truly attractive and inspiring. It is a beautiful cycle of transformation, where our words become a reflection of our growing inner light, and that light in turn is strengthened by every kind word we speak. There are times when the most powerful form of speech is simply to say nothing at all, to allow the silence to speak for itself in moments of profound grief or overwhelming joy. Silence can be a sanctuary, a place where the soul goes to rest and to listen to the whisperings of the divine, away from the clamor of the world. In the presence of a truly wise person, their silence is often more instructive than their words, for it carries the weight of their entire being and the depth of their realization. Learning to be comfortable with silence allows us to speak only when we have something of value to add, ensuring that our words are like the rare and precious gems they are meant to be. This journey into the heart of speech is a path of discovery, where we learn that the simplest of actions can have the most profound consequences for our lives and the lives of those around us. It is a path that invites us to slow down, to breathe, and to consider the impact of our presence in every moment, knowing that we are always creating our future. With every word we choose, we are making a statement about who we are and what we value, and we are contributing to the collective story of humanity. Let us choose words that inspire, words that heal, and words that bring a sense of light and hope to a world that is often overshadowed by darkness. In the ancient temples, there were often bells that were rung to call the practitioners to their practice, their clear and resonant tones serving as a reminder to return to the present moment. Our words can be like those bells, waking people up to the beauty of their own lives and the potential for goodness that exists within every heart. As we continue to explore the nuances of right speech, let us hold the intention of being a source of clarity and comfort for all who cross our path, knowing that our voice is a sacred gift that is meant to be shared with love. Every conversation is an opportunity to practice this art, and every interaction is a chance to plant a seed of peace that will grow and flourish in the garden of our collective destiny. The path is not always easy, as we all have deeply ingrained habits and emotional triggers that can cause us to speak without thinking, especially in moments of stress or conflict. However, each time we catch ourselves and choose a different way, we are strengthening the muscles of our awareness and making it easier to choose the path of kindness the next time. This is the essence of spiritual growth, the gradual and steady transformation of our old patterns into new and more conscious ways of being. We are all works in progress, and the beauty of the journey lies in our willingness to keep trying, to keep learning, and to keep opening our hearts to the power of truth. Think of a time when someone spoke to you with such genuine warmth and sincerity that it stayed with you for days, a memory that still brings a sense of peace to your heart whenever you recall it. This is the power you hold in your own voice, the ability to create that same sense of peace and connection for everyone you meet, simply by choosing to speak from the heart. It is a simple yet profound realization that can change the way you see every person in your life, from your closest family members to the strangers you pass on the street. By seeing everyone as a fellow traveler on this path, you can offer them the gift of your kindness, knowing that it will ripple out in ways you can never fully imagine. The stories of the past are like lanterns that light our way, showing us the pitfalls to avoid and the heights that we can reach when we dedicate ourselves to a life of integrity and compassion. As we walk this path together, let us support each other with words of encouragement and understanding, creating a community of speech that is a sanctuary for all. The world needs our voices, not to add to the noise and the division, but to bring a sense of harmony and a vision of what is possible when we speak with love. May our words always be a reflection of the best within us, and may they serve as a bridge that brings us closer to each other and to the truth that resides in the heart of all things. The journey continues with each breath and each syllable, a constant flow of energy that is the very fabric of our lives, and as we move forward, we do so with a sense of purpose and a commitment to the light. There is a quiet confidence that comes from knowing that your speech is aligned with your values, a sense of inner strength that allows you to face any challenge with grace and equanimity. This is the true reward of practicing right speech, a peace that passeth all understanding and a joy that is not dependent on external circumstances. Let us carry this awareness into everything we do, making our life a living testimony to the power of a kind and truthful voice. The ancient masters used to say that the tongue is the most difficult organ to tame, yet it is also the one that can lead us most directly to our own awakening if we treat it with the respect it deserves. It is like a wild horse that can either carry us to our destination or throw us into the ditch, depending on how well we learn to guide it with the reins of our mindfulness. By treating every word as an act of creation, we become more conscious of the world we are building, and we begin to see the profound interconnectedness of all things through the medium of our speech. This is not a burden, but a wonderful opportunity to be an active force for good in the world, to be a light in the darkness and a voice of reason in a time of confusion. As the sun sets and the day draws to a close, you can rest in the knowledge that you have done your best to speak with kindness and truth, and that any mistakes you made are simply stepping stones on the path of your growth. Tomorrow is a new day, another chance to refine your speech and to share the love that is at the core of your being with everyone you encounter. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single word, and that word is always available to you in the present moment, waiting to be spoken with intention and grace. Let us embrace this path with a joyful heart, knowing that every word is a chance to heal, to inspire, and to connect with the divine light that shines in every soul. The vibration of our voice has the power to harmonize the energy around us, creating a space where healing and transformation can occur naturally and without effort. When we speak from a place of deep peace, our voice carries that peace into the environment, touching the lives of those around us in ways that are both subtle and profound. This is the true meaning of being a blessing to the world, to be a person whose presence and speech bring a sense of ease and a feeling of being truly at home. It is a beautiful way to live, a way that honors the sacredness of life and the incredible power of the human spirit to transcend the limitations of the ego. There are many layers to the practice of right speech, and as we peel them away, we find a deeper and more authentic version of ourselves waiting to be heard. This is the voice of the soul, a voice that speaks with a clarity and a wisdom that is beyond the reach of the mind alone, a voice that is always rooted in the truth of our interconnectedness. By listening to this inner voice and allowing it to guide our outer speech, we become a channel for the wisdom of the universe, a vessel through which the light of truth can shine into the world. This is the ultimate goal of our practice, to be a living expression of the highest values and the deepest truths, one word at a time, one breath at a time. The stories we tell ourselves and the stories we share with others are the threads that weave the tapestry of our reality, and we have the power to choose the colors and the patterns of that tapestry. Let us choose stories of hope, stories of resilience, and stories of the incredible capacity for love that exists within every human heart. By sharing these stories, we help to create a collective narrative that is filled with light and possibility, a narrative that supports the growth and the awakening of all beings. This is the power of speech in its highest form, a tool for the evolution of consciousness and the manifestation of a more compassionate world. The silence that follows a truly meaningful conversation is often full of a deep and resonant peace, a feeling of having touched something essential and timeless in the heart of another. This is the fruit of right speech, a connection that goes beyond words and touches the very essence of our being, reminding us of our shared humanity and our common destiny. As we move through our lives, let us seek to create these moments of profound connection, using our speech as a key to unlock the doors of the heart and to invite the light of understanding to enter. Every encounter is a sacred opportunity, every word is a potential blessing, and every breath is a chance to begin again in the path of truth. The ancient sages spoke of a speech that is like a garland of flowers, beautiful to behold and sweet to the senses, a speech that brings joy to everyone who hears it. This is the kind of speech that we are all capable of cultivating, a speech that reflects the beauty of our own inner world and the depth of our love for all living beings. It requires a gentle touch and a mindful presence, but the rewards are far greater than any effort we might put into it, for it brings a sense of fulfillment and a peace that is truly lasting. Let us dedicate ourselves to this path of beautiful speech, knowing that we are contributing to the harmony and the well-being of the entire universe with every kind word we speak. The journey of refining our speech is a journey of refining our entire being, for our words are the outer expression of our inner state, a mirror that reflects the progress of our spiritual path. As we become more aware of the power of our voice, we also become more aware of the power of our thoughts and the power of our intentions, creating a more integrated and conscious way of living. This is the essence of a life lived in harmony with the natural laws of the universe, a life that is a source of inspiration and a beacon of hope for all. With every word we choose, we are saying yes to the light, yes to the truth, and yes to the incredible potential for goodness that resides within us all. The echoes of the ancients still resonate in the way the morning light filters through the leaves, reminding everyone that the clarity of our vision is often tied to the clarity of our expression, for a mind cluttered with harsh thoughts will inevitably struggle to find the right words to say. If you observe the way water flows around a stone, you see that it does not argue or use force, but instead finds a path of least resistance, much like a person who has mastered the art of gentle communication and understands that softness is often more powerful than strength. There is an old story from the time when the monks traveled through dense forests, about a traveler who was carrying a heavy burden of secrets and felt that his voice was trapped in a cage of his own making, unable to speak the truth even to himself. He met a healer who lived in a simple hut by a stream, and the healer did not ask him what was wrong, but instead invited him to listen to the sound of the falling water for an entire day without saying a single word. By the time the sun began to dip below the horizon, the traveler realized that his internal pressure had started to dissolve, simply because he had stopped feeding the fire of his anxieties with the fuel of his repetitive complaints. The healer eventually told him that the most important conversation we ever have is the one that happens in the silence of our own hearts, before we even open our mouths to address the world, for that internal dialogue sets the frequency for everything else. This illustrates how the energy of our speech is not just about the external impact on others, but about the internal environment we are creating for ourselves, as every word acts like a brick in the walls of our mental home. When we speak with honesty and kindness, we are building a house that is full of light and air, but when we indulge in deception or anger, we are creating a dark and cramped space where it is difficult to breathe or to see clearly. Looking back at the lives of those who walked the path of wisdom before us, we find the story of a young student who was frustrated because he felt that his words were never taken seriously, despite his great efforts to sound knowledgeable and authoritative. He approached a master who was known for speaking very little, yet whose every word carried the weight of a mountain and the precision of a diamond. The master told the student to go to the village well and watch how people drew water, noting which buckets came up full and which ones came up splashing and empty. The student noticed that the buckets that were lowered with a steady hand and allowed to sink deeply into the cool darkness were the ones that returned overflowing with life-sustaining water, while the ones that were tossed in with haste and ego only brought back foam and noise. This simple observation taught the student that the depth of our speech is directly proportional to the depth of our inner reflection, and that a voice that comes from a shallow place will always struggle to satisfy the thirst of the listener. It is a beautiful thing to realize that we do not need to use many words to be effective, but rather we need to use words that are saturated with the stillness of our own presence, allowing them to carry a sense of peace that transcends the mere meaning of the syllables. Everyone has met someone whose voice feels like a warm blanket on a cold night, not because they are saying anything extraordinary, but because the spirit behind their words is one of genuine compassion and unshakable equanimity. This quality of speech is something that cannot be faked or manufactured, as it is the natural byproduct of a life lived in accordance with the values of the soul, a vibration that speaks directly to the heart of the other person. Consider the way a single drop of ink can color an entire glass of water, just as a single word of doubt or a subtle hint of judgment can color the entire perception of a relationship, lingering long after the conversation has ended. We often underestimate the longevity of the sounds we produce, forgetting that they are like invisible threads that bind us to our past and shape the trajectory of our future interactions. In the teachings of the forest traditions, there is a great emphasis on the concept of being a guardian of the senses, which includes being a vigilant gatekeeper of the mouth, ensuring that only that which is beneficial is allowed to pass through. This is not about being restrictive or fearful, but about being deeply respectful of the power we hold and the legacy we are leaving behind in the ears and minds of those we love. There was once a community of practitioners who took a vow to only speak things that would make the listener feel more at peace with themselves, and for a long time, the village they lived in became a haven of harmony and mutual support. However, one day, a newcomer arrived who was addicted to the thrill of dramatic storytelling, often exaggerating the faults of others to make his own life seem more interesting. At first, The villagers were entertained by his colorful descriptions and his sharp wit, but slowly, the atmosphere of the village began to change, as people started to look at each other with suspicion and the old sense of trust began to wither away. It only took a few weeks of unconsidered speech to dismantle the peace that had taken years to cultivate, showing just how fragile the social fabric can be when it is not protected by the commitment to right speech. The elders of the village did not cast the newcomer out, but instead invited him to a feast where no one spoke a word, and the only sounds were the clinking of bowls and the rustle of the wind in the trees. In that profound silence, the newcomer began to feel the weight of his own noise, realizing that his constant chatter had been a way to avoid the emptiness he felt inside, a shield to keep the world at a distance. He saw that the villagers were not being quiet because they were bored or angry, but because they were savoring the richness of the moment and the simple joy of being together without the need for performance. This experience transformed him more than any lecture could have, as he learned that the most profound truths are often found in the spaces between the words, rather than in the words themselves. We can apply this same wisdom to our digital lives, where the temptation to react quickly and harshly is always present, and where the lack of physical presence makes it easier to forget the human being on the other side of the screen. Every comment we leave, every message we send, is an extension of our voice and a part of the karma we are creating in this interconnected world, weaving a web of energy that eventually returns to us. By choosing to be a voice of reason and kindness in the midst of the digital storm, we are not only protecting our own peace of mind but also contributing to a more compassionate global conversation. It is a slow and steady process of reclaiming our power from the impulses of the ego, and replacing them with the deliberate choices of the heart, one keystroke and one sentence at a time. Think about the way a garden responds to the weather, with some plants flourishing in the rain and others needing the heat of the sun to bloom, just as our words must be adapted to the specific needs of the person we are speaking to. A word that is helpful to one might be confusing or even hurtful to another, depending on their state of mind and their own personal history, which is why the practice of speech requires a great deal of sensitivity and intuition. To speak with wisdom is to be like a skillful gardener who knows exactly what each plant needs to thrive, offering words of encouragement to the discouraged, words of comfort to the grieving, and words of gentle correction to those who have lost their way. This level of mastery comes from a deep and abiding love for all living beings, a desire to see everyone free from suffering and filled with the light of their own true nature. In the Chronicles of the Wandering Monks, there is an account of a woman who was known as the Mother of Silence, not because she did not speak, but because her words were so few and so perfectly chosen that they felt like a rare gift whenever she shared them. People would travel for days just to hear her say a single sentence, for they knew that her speech was a reflection of a mind that was as vast as the sky and as clear as a mountain lake. She taught that every time we speak, we are either adding to the beauty of the world or taking away from it, and that the responsibility of being a human being is to ensure that our contribution is always one of beauty. When she did speak, her voice had a musical quality that seemed to vibrate with the very rhythm of the universe, reminding everyone of the sacred harmony that exists beneath the surface of our chaotic lives. She often used the analogy of a flute, noting that a flute can only produce beautiful music if it is hollow and free of obstructions, just as we can only speak words of true wisdom if we have emptied ourselves of our pride and our personal agendas. If we are full of ourselves, our speech will always be distorted by our desires and our fears, but if we are empty and receptive, the wisdom of the universe can flow through us and find its way to those who need it most. This state of emptiness is not a lack of personality, but a profound openness that allows us to be a channel for something much greater than our small selves, a voice that speaks for the benefit of all. It is a path of humility and grace, where we learn to let go of the need to be right or to be noticed, and instead focus on being a source of light and healing for everyone we encounter. The karma of speech is not a rigid system of rewards and punishments, but a dynamic and ever-changing flow of energy that we are constantly influencing with our choices. Even if we have spoken many harsh words in the past, we have the power to change our direction in this very moment, by choosing to speak with a different intention and a new level of awareness. Every kind word we speak acts as a healing balm for the wounds of the past, gradually dissolving the negative energy we have created and replacing it with a sense of peace and clarity. This is the beauty of the spiritual path, for it is never too late to start again, to refine our speech, and to align our lives with the highest truths of the heart. As you go about your day, you might find it helpful to imagine that your words are like delicate birds that you are releasing into the sky, and that you want them to fly high and bring joy to everyone who sees them. Before you release a word, check to see if its wings are strong and if its song is pure, ensuring that it will be a welcome presence in the world rather than a source of trouble. This simple visualization can help you stay connected to the intention behind your speech, reminding you of the sacred nature of the gift you have been given and the responsibility that comes with it. By treating our speech as a sacred art, we elevate every conversation into a spiritual practice, and we transform our daily lives into a beautiful expression of our deepest values. The vibrations of the sounds we make have a direct impact on our own physical and emotional well-being, as well as the well-being of those around us, as the body responds to the tone and the frequency of our voice. When we speak with anger, our own heart rate increases and our muscles tighten, creating a state of stress that is harmful to our health over time. Conversely, when we speak with love and kindness, our body relaxes and our mind becomes more focused and calm, creating a sense of inner harmony that supports our overall vitality. This is a very practical reason to practice right speech, for it is not just about being a good person, but about taking care of ourselves and ensuring that we are living in a state of balance and health. In the ancient stories, there is a legendary kingdom where the people were said to have lost the ability to speak for a generation, and during that time, they learned to communicate through the language of the eyes and the movements of the heart. When they finally regained their voices, they were so shocked by the power and the potential for damage in their words that they only spoke when it was absolutely necessary, and their speech became a form of poetry that celebrated the beauty of life. This story reminds us that we often take our ability to speak for granted, forgetting what a remarkable and powerful tool it truly is, and how much better our lives would be if we treated it with more reverence. We do not need to lose our voices to appreciate the value of our words, but we can practice a similar level of care and consideration in everything we say, making our speech a reflection of our profound gratitude for the gift of communication. The interconnectedness of all things means that our words do not just affect the person we are speaking to, but ripple out to touch people we will never meet, creating a chain reaction of energy that can span the entire globe. A single kind word spoken to a stranger in a moment of distress can inspire that stranger to be kind to someone else, who in turn passes that kindness on, creating a wave of positivity that can change the world in ways we can never fully see. This is the hidden power of our daily interactions, the ability to be a catalyst for good on a scale that is truly magnificent, if only we have the courage and the awareness to use our voice wisely. We are all interconnected in a vast and beautiful web of life, and our speech is one of the primary ways we influence the quality of that web, making it either stronger or more fragile with every word we utter. Think about the silence that exists in the heart of a deep cave or on the top of a high mountain, a silence that feels ancient and indestructible, and try to carry a piece of that silence with you into your conversations. This does not mean being detached or cold, but rather having a foundation of inner stillness that allows you to remain calm and centered even when the conversation becomes difficult or heated. When you speak from this place of stillness, your words have a grounding effect on others, helping to de-escalate tension and to bring a sense of perspective to the situation. It is a form of spiritual leadership that is practiced not through titles or positions, but through the quiet and steady influence of a mind that is at peace with itself and the world. There was a wise elder who once said that the most important thing to remember about speech is that it is a servant of the heart, and that if the heart is full of love, the speech will naturally be filled with grace. He encouraged his students to focus less on the rules of grammar and more on the quality of their compassion, knowing that a heart that is truly open will always find the right words to say, even if they are simple and unpolished. This is a very liberating perspective, for it means that we do not need to be perfect or highly educated to practice right speech, but only to be sincere and present in our interactions. Our sincerity is the most powerful tool we have, for it cuts through the layers of pretense and speaks directly to the soul of the other, creating a connection that is both authentic and enduring. As the path of our lives continues to unfold, let us remain mindful of the footprints we are leaving behind with our words, ensuring that they are footprints of kindness and understanding that others can follow with confidence. Every day is an opportunity to refine our art, to learn from our mistakes, and to deepen our commitment to a way of living that honors the sacredness of all things. The journey of the soul is a journey of becoming more fully human, and our speech is one of the most important ways we express that humanity and share it with the world. With every breath and every syllable, we are participating in the grand dance of creation, adding our own unique melody to the song of life and helping to create a world that is filled with beauty and light. The relationship between our speech and our spiritual growth is like the relationship between the wind and the sails of a boat, for our words can either propel us forward on our journey or hold us back in the doldrums of our own making. When we use our voice to uplift others and to express the truth, we are catching the favorable winds of the universe and moving steadily toward our own awakening. But when we use our voice to criticize or to deceive, we are effectively lowering our sails and losing the momentum we have worked so hard to build, making our path much more difficult than it needs to be. This is why the practice of right speech is considered one of the pillars of a meaningful life, a fundamental discipline that supports every other aspect of our personal and spiritual development. Think of the way a master musician treats their instrument, with a level of care and respect that is born of a deep understanding of its potential to create beauty and to move the human spirit. Our voice is an instrument that is far more versatile and powerful than any flute or violin, and we are the musicians who are responsible for the quality of the music we produce. By practicing our art with dedication and love, we can learn to play the melodies of compassion and the harmonies of truth, creating a life that is a symphony of goodness for all to hear. This is not a goal to be reached in the distant future, but a practice that begins in this very moment, with the next word you choose to speak and the next thought you allow to take root in your mind. There are many challenges on this path, as we are often surrounded by people and environments that do not value right speech, and where gossip and harshness are the norm. In these situations, it can be difficult to maintain our own standards and to stay true to our intentions, but these are also the moments when our practice is most important and most effective. By being a steady and quiet example of a different way of being, we can offer a powerful alternative to the negativity around us, showing others that it is possible to be kind and truthful even in a world that often is not. This quiet resistance to the habits of the ego is a form of spiritual courage that has the power to change the hearts of those around us, one conversation at a time. The stories of the past are full of people who transformed their lives and their communities simply by changing the way they spoke, turning away from the darkness of anger and toward the light of understanding. These stories are a constant source of inspiration, reminding us that we too have the power to create a positive impact on the world through the simple and direct medium of our speech. Every time we choose to speak a word of kindness instead of a word of judgment, we are contributing to the collective healing of humanity and making the world a more beautiful place for everyone. This is the true power of the karma of speech, a power that is available to each of us in every moment of our lives, waiting to be used for the benefit of all. As we deepen our understanding of this practice, we begin to see that our speech is not just something we do, but a reflection of who we are at the most fundamental level of our being. Our words are the messengers of our soul, carrying our intentions and our energy out into the world and bringing back the fruits of our actions in the form of our experiences. By aligning our speech with our highest self, we create a life that is integrated and harmonious, a life that is a true reflection of the divine spark that resides within each of us. This is the journey of a lifetime, a path of continuous discovery and growth that leads us ever closer to the heart of truth and the source of all peace. The silence that often follows a period of mindful speech is a silence that is full of meaning and depth, a silence that allows us to integrate our experiences and to listen to the wisdom of our own inner voice. It is in these moments of quiet reflection that we can truly see the impact of our words and the quality of the energy we are putting out into the world. By taking the time to listen to the silence, we become more attuned to the subtle rhythms of our lives and more conscious of the choices we are making in every moment. This inner listening is the foundation of all right speech, for it is only when we are truly listening to ourselves that we can truly speak to others with clarity and compassion. The path of the soul is a path of returning to the source of our own being, and our speech is one of the primary ways we navigate this path and share our discoveries with others. Every word we speak is a step on this journey, a choice to move either toward the light of understanding or into the shadows of confusion and discord. By choosing the path of truth and kindness, we are not only helping ourselves but also supporting the journey of everyone we meet, creating a community of light that can illuminate even the darkest corners of the world. This is our shared responsibility and our common joy, to be a source of wisdom and love for all living beings through the simple and profound art of right speech. Think for a moment about the words that have shaped your own life, the things that were said to you that gave you the strength to keep going or the clarity to see your own worth. Those words were gifts of the highest order, and now it is your turn to offer those same gifts to others, to be a voice of hope and a source of inspiration in a world that so often needs it. Your voice is a unique and precious instrument, and there are people in this world who need to hear exactly what you have to say, in the way that only you can say it. By speaking from your heart and sharing your own truth with love, you are fulfilling a vital part of your purpose and contributing to the beauty and the richness of the collective experience. The journey continues, with each new day offering fresh opportunities to practice and to grow, to refine our speech and to deepen our connection to the source of all things. Let us move forward with a sense of wonder and a commitment to the path of truth, knowing that we are never alone and that every step we take is supported by the infinite wisdom of the universe. With every word we speak, let us hold the intention of being a blessing to the world, a voice of peace and a channel for the light of compassion that shines in every heart. This is our sacred task and our greatest joy, to live a life that is a true expression of the love and the wisdom that are our birthright as human beings. The vibrations of our speech continue to echo in the universe long after we have finished speaking, creating a legacy of energy that shapes the world for generations to come. By choosing to speak with kindness and integrity, we are leaving behind a legacy of light that will continue to support and inspire others long after we are gone. This is a profound and beautiful thought, that our simplest words can have a lasting impact on the future of humanity and the quality of the world we leave behind. Let us choose our words with care and with love, knowing that they are the seeds of a future that is more peaceful, more compassionate, and more filled with the light of truth for all. The morning dew reflects the world in 1,000 tiny spheres, each one perfect and transient, much like the fleeting thoughts that arise before they are crystallized into the spoken word, and if you watch closely, you can see how the sun gently dissolves the mist to reveal the solid ground beneath. This transition from the hidden world of the mind to the visible world of social interaction is a sacred bridge that everyone crosses countless times a day, yet many do not realize that the quality of the timber used to build that bridge determines whether it can support the weight of a soul's true intention. There is an ancient story about a traveler who came across a village where the people had a peculiar custom of weighing their words on a literal scale before they were allowed to be spoken in the central market, and the traveler observed that the heaviest words were not the ones spoken with the most volume, but the ones that carried the density of genuine experience and heartfelt sincerity. A young woman in that village once stood before the scale with a single sentence she wished to share with a grieving neighbor, and although her voice was barely a whisper, the scale tipped deeply because her words were forged in the fire of her own overcome hardships. This tells everyone that the weight of our speech in the cosmic balance is not measured by the complexity of our vocabulary or the cleverness of our rhetoric, but by the amount of life force and honest presence we infuse into every syllable. When you speak from a place of superficiality, your words are like dry leaves scattered by the wind, making a lot of noise but leaving no lasting warmth, whereas words spoken from the depths of the heart are like stones placed in a foundation, providing stability and comfort to those who lean upon them. In the time when the great teachers moved across the plains, there was a man who prided himself on his ability to mimic the speech of the wise, memorizing long passages of scripture and repeating them with a formal tone that impressed the casual listener. However, when he sat among those who were truly suffering, his borrowed words felt cold and brittle, like ice that cracks under the slightest pressure, because they did not originate from the warmth of his own realization. He eventually realized that using the words of others to hide his own lack of understanding was a form of spiritual theft, a way of creating a false persona that prevented him from ever forming a real connection with himself or others. The lesson he learned was that even the simplest, most unpolished word of truth is infinitely more valuable than a mountain of beautiful lies, for truth has a resonance that the soul recognizes instantly, even if the mind cannot quite explain why. This resonance is the natural frequency of a life lived in alignment with the Dharma, a vibration that dissolves the barriers of ego and allows two people to meet in a space of shared humanity and mutual respect. Everyone has the capacity to tap into this frequency, but it requires the courage to be vulnerable and the willingness to let go of the masks we wear to protect our pride. Think about the way a bell continues to hum long after it has been struck, a subtle vibration that stays in the air and touches everything in its vicinity, just as our words leave a lingering energetic signature in the rooms we inhabit and the hearts we touch. If the strike is harsh and aggressive, the hum is jarring and unsettling, but if the strike is gentle and precise, The hum is a soothing reminder of the underlying harmony of all things. We are all like bells in this vast cathedral of existence, and our speech is the way we announce our presence to the universe, contributing to the grand resonance of the collective consciousness. There was once a monk who spent many years in solitary retreat, and when he finally returned to his community, he found that he had lost the desire to speak about anything that did not directly lead to the cessation of suffering. He noticed that the other monks often engaged in light-hearted debates about the nature of reality or the details of the rules, and while their intentions were good, their words often became a net that trapped their minds in a web of concepts and opinions. He chose instead to speak through his actions, offering a steady hand or a quiet smile that communicated more about the path of peace than 1,000 lectures ever could. When he did speak, his words were like the rare and precious incense that is only lit on the most sacred occasions, filling the air with a fragrance that cleared the mind and opened the heart to the beauty of the present moment. He taught his students that the most effective way to avoid creating negative speech karma is to cultivate a mind that is so full of the nectar of compassion that there is simply no room for the weeds of judgment or the thorns of malice to grow. This internal transformation is the secret to a life of effortless right speech, where the words that leave our lips are naturally aligned with the well-being of all, flowing out like a clear stream from a pure and hidden source. If you look at the interactions between people in the busy streets, you see how often speech is used as a tool for negotiation, for defense, or for the pursuit of self-interest, creating a dense layer of noise that obscures the simple truth of our interconnectedness. We use words to define our boundaries and to assert our identity, often forgetting that the more we define ourselves against others, the more isolated and fearful we become. To speak with a sense of oneness is to recognize that the person we are talking to is not a separate entity, but a different expression of the same life force that flows through our own veins, a realization that naturally softens our tone and humbles our hearts. Consider the way a master calligrapher prepares their mind before the brush ever touches the paper, focusing their energy and aligning their breath until they are in a state of total presence and flow. Our speech can be a form of calligraphy in time, a series of strokes that create a beautiful and meaningful pattern in the lives of those around us, provided we take the same care to prepare our inner state. Before you begin a difficult conversation, take a moment to breathe and to ground yourself in the stillness of your own being, allowing the sediment of your emotions to settle so that your words can be clear and focused. In the stories of the old kingdoms, there was a king who was haunted by the words of a curse that had been spoken against his ancestors, and he spent his entire life trying to find a way to break the power of that ancient sound. He consulted scholars and mystics, but the answer only came when he met a simple forest dweller who told him that the only thing that can truly neutralize a word of hate is a word of genuine, unconditional love. The king realized that by carrying the memory of the curse and fearing its power, he was keeping it alive in his own heart, and that the only way to be free was to replace that old energy with a new and more powerful vibration. He began to use his voice to bless his subjects and to speak of the beauty of the land, and slowly, the heavy atmosphere of the palace began to lift, as the light of his new speech dissolved the shadows of the past. This story is a powerful reminder that we are not victims of the words that have been spoken to us, but we are the masters of the words we choose to speak in response, and we have the power to break any cycle of negativity through the strength of our own intentions. Each moment is a fresh opportunity to start a new legacy, to speak a different truth, and to contribute to the healing of our personal and collective history. The subtle textures of our voice carry the emotional history of our lives, and when we speak with awareness, we can hear the echoes of our past fears and our current longings hidden in the tone and the rhythm of our syllables. By listening to our own voice with the same compassion we offer to others, we can begin to heal the parts of ourselves that are still trapped in the habits of defensive or aggressive speech. This self-listening is a vital part of the spiritual path, a way of bringing the light of mindfulness into the most intimate aspects of our daily existence and transforming our communication into a mirror of our growing inner peace. Think about the way a forest sounds at night, a complex and beautiful tapestry of sounds that are all interconnected and yet distinct, each one contributing to the overall sense of a living and breathing whole. Our human world is also a tapestry of sound, and our voice is one of the threads that makes up the pattern, influencing the color and the strength of the entire fabric. When we speak with integrity, we are strengthening the web of trust that holds our communities together, but when we speak with deceit, we are pulling at the threads and causing the fabric to unravel. There was a teacher who once asked his students to go out into the world and find the most beautiful sound they could, and after many days, they returned with stories of bird songs, of rushing water, and of the laughter of children. The teacher smiled and told them that while all those sounds were indeed beautiful, the most profound sound in the universe is the sound of a human heart that is speaking its truth without fear and without the desire to harm. That sound, he said, has the power to stop wars, to heal broken spirits, and to remind every living being of their own inherent divinity and the sacredness of the life they have been given. As you continue on your journey, let your speech be a reflection of the beauty you find in the world, a way of honoring the small miracles and the quiet moments of grace that often go unnoticed in the rush of the day. By using your voice to highlight the good in others and to express your gratitude for the simple gifts of life, you are creating a positive feedback loop that nourishes your own spirit and uplifts the spirits of everyone you meet. This is the alchemy of right speech, the ability to transform the lead of our mundane interactions into the gold of a truly meaningful and connected life, one word at a time. The silence that exists between the stars is the same silence that exists between our thoughts, a vast and fertile ground from which all sound arises and to which all sound eventually returns. By staying connected to this background of silence, we can ensure that our words are not just empty noise, but are grounded in the eternal truth that lies at the core of our being. This connection gives our speech a quality of timelessness and depth, making our words more like the steady light of a star than the flickering flame of a candle in the wind. Let us speak with the awareness of this vast silence, knowing that our voice is a bridge between the finite world of form and the infinite world of the spirit. The path of the heart is a path of constant refinement, where we learn to peel away the layers of pretense and to speak from the center of our own being with clarity and love. It is a journey that requires patience and persistence, but the rewards are a sense of inner freedom and a depth of connection that can only be found when we are true to ourselves and to others. With every word we choose, we are making a statement about the kind of world we want to live in, and we are helping to create that world through the power of our own voice. Let us choose words that build, words that heal, and words that remind us all of the incredible power of the human spirit to transcend any obstacle and to shine with the light of truth. The vibrations of our speech are like the ripples on a pond that continue to spread outward long after the stone has reached the bottom, touching shores that we may never see and influencing lives in ways we can never fully understand. By holding the intention of kindness in our hearts, we can ensure that the ripples we create are ones of peace and harmony, contributing to the well-being of the entire planet and the future of all its inhabitants. This is the great work of our lives, to be a source of light and a voice of love in a world that is so often filled with darkness and confusion, one breath, and one syllable at a time. The scent of damp earth after a long rain has a way of grounding the spirit, much like the stillness that follows a moment of honest speech when the air feels lighter and the truth has finally found its way into the open. It is a curious thing how people often spend years carrying the weight of things left unsaid, building internal dams that hold back the natural flow of their own vitality, only to realize that a single courageous conversation could have released the pressure and allowed life to bloom once more. If you look at the way a tree stands firm in a storm, it is not just the strength of the trunk that matters, but the flexibility of the branches that allow the wind to pass through without breaking them, which is very similar to how a flexible mind can receive harsh words without letting them shatter the inner peace. There is an old story of a young man who was gifted a beautiful, golden bell that was said to possess the power to heal any sickness in the village, but there was one condition: the bell would only ring if it was struck by someone who had not spoken a single word of vanity for an entire year. The villagers were excited and many tried to claim the honor, but every time someone stepped forward to strike the bell, it remained silent, for even the most virtuous among them had occasionally slipped into boasting or seeking praise for their good deeds. Years passed and the bell sat covered in dust, until a traveler who had spent his life in quiet service to the poor arrived, and when he accidentally brushed against the bell while cleaning the temple floor, it let out a sound so pure and resonant that it felt like the heartbeat of the world itself. This story reminds everyone that the true power of our voice is not in the grand declarations we make or the clever ways we present ourselves to the world, but in the hidden humility of our daily interactions when no one is watching. When we speak without the need to be seen as important or superior, our words gain a transparent quality that allows the light of the Dharma to shine through them, touching others in ways that are far more profound than any rehearsed speech. It is the ego that makes our voice heavy and abrasive, while the heart makes it light and soothing, like a cool mountain spring that offers its water to everyone without asking for anything in return. You might notice that the most stressful moments in life are often those where we feel the need to defend our image or to prove that someone else is wrong, turning our speech into a shield or a sword. However, when we let go of the need to be the hero of every story, we find that we can listen with a much deeper curiosity, and our responses become naturally more spacious and less reactive. This shift in perspective is like moving from a narrow, crowded room into a wide, open field, where there is plenty of room for different viewpoints and where the wind of understanding can blow freely in all directions. There was a time during the rainy season when a group of followers sat in a circle, and the teacher asked them to describe the taste of a peach without using any words that had been used by the person before them. At first, it was easy as they spoke of sweetness and juiciness, but as the circle continued, they had to delve deeper into the subtle textures, the fragrance of the skin, and the feeling of the sun that had nourished the fruit. By the end of the exercise, they realized that they had never truly appreciated the peach until they were forced to look at it from so many different angles, and the same is true for the people in our lives. When we label someone with a single word or a quick judgment, we are essentially closing the book on them and refusing to see the infinite complexity of their being, which is a form of verbal violence that limits our own growth as much as theirs. To practice right speech is to remain open to the possibility that every person is a mystery waiting to be discovered, and that our words should be an invitation to connection rather than a final verdict. If we approach every conversation with the eyes of a child seeing the ocean for the first time, our voice will naturally reflect that sense of wonder and respect, creating an atmosphere where truth can emerge naturally without being forced. Consider the way a musician tunes their instrument before a performance, carefully listening to the subtle vibrations and making tiny adjustments until the sound is perfectly aligned with the universal pitch. Our internal state is the instrument, and our speech is the music, and if we do not take the time to tune our hearts through meditation and reflection, the sounds we produce will always be slightly out of harmony with the truth of the moment. It is not enough to just say the right things, we must also be the right person behind the words, ensuring that our inner world is a place of peace and clarity that can support the weight of our expressions. In the ancient manuscripts, there is a mention of a rare bird that only sings when it hears the sound of genuine laughter, a metaphor for how our own inner wisdom only reveals itself when we approach life with a sense of joy and lightheartedness. If our speech is always heavy with gravity and seriousness, we might miss the subtle humor and the playfulness that are essential parts of the human experience. There is a specific kind of wit that is kind and inclusive, a way of using words to dissolve tension and to remind everyone that we are all in this beautiful, messy journey together. When you speak to a friend who is struggling, sometimes the most helpful thing is not a profound piece of advice, but a simple, shared observation about the beauty of the clouds or the persistent green of the grass growing through the sidewalk. These small, grounded words act as anchors, helping the other person to find their way back to the present moment where life is always happening, despite the stories of the mind. This is the art of being a companion of the soul, using our voice to gently nudge each other toward the light, without ever being pushy or demanding. The karma of our speech is also woven into the way we handle the mistakes of others, especially when we have been wronged or misunderstood. It is so tempting to use our words to strike back, to ensure that the other person feels the same sting that we felt, but this only serves to keep the cycle of pain in motion. To choose a word of forgiveness instead of a word of retaliation is a revolutionary act that changes the trajectory of our destiny, freeing us from the chains of resentment and allowing us to walk into the future with a lighter heart. Think of the way a potter shapes a piece of clay on a spinning wheel, using a gentle but firm pressure to guide the form into existence, just as our words shape the reality of our homes and our workplaces. If we are too harsh, the clay collapses, but if we are too timid, the form never takes shape, so we must find that middle path of speaking the truth with love and clarity. This balance is something we learn through trial and error, through the many times we say too much or too little, and through the quiet reflections that follow every interaction. There was a wise woman who lived at the edge of a great desert, and she was known for her ability to speak to the wind and the animals, because she understood that every living thing has its own language of vibration. She taught that if we want to be truly understood by other human beings, we must first learn to listen to the silent language of their needs and their fears, which are often hidden beneath the surface of their spoken words. By responding to the heart rather than just the head, we can bridge the gaps that logic alone can never cross, creating a sense of intimacy that is the true foundation of peace. Every time we choose to stay silent instead of spreading a rumor, we are performing a small miracle of protection for the collective consciousness, helping to filter out the noise of the world. And every time we speak up for someone who cannot speak for themselves, we are using the gift of our voice to uphold the dignity of all life, fulfilling our role as guardians of the truth. These choices may seem small in the moment, but they are the threads that make up the tapestry of a life lived with purpose and integrity. As the path continues to wind through the mountains and the valleys of experience, let us remember that our voice is a sacred fire that can either warm the house or burn it down, and it is up to us to tend that fire with care and devotion. The more we practice, the more we realize that every syllable is a prayer, a way of offering our energy to the world and asking for nothing but the opportunity to be of service. With each breath, we have the chance to refine our song, to speak a new kindness, and to contribute to the harmony of the universe in our own unique and beautiful way. The way a single candle flame can light 1,000 others without losing its own brightness is a beautiful mystery that mirrors the way a word of truth can illuminate many minds without exhausting the speaker, and if you watch the flame closely, you see it dance with a quiet resilience that no wind can easily extinguish. This inner luminosity is what happens when someone decides to stop using speech as a way to hide their true self and instead begins to use it as a transparent window into their soul, allowing others to see the warmth and the vulnerability that we all share. There is an old story of a craftsman who spent his entire life building intricate musical instruments, but he was always dissatisfied because none of them could perfectly capture the sound of the wind moving through the pines or the soft murmur of a hidden brook. One day, while he was resting in the forest, he met a traveler who carried no instrument at all, yet when the traveler spoke, the craftsman felt as though he were hearing the very music he had been trying to build for decades. The traveler explained that his secret was simply that he had spent years practicing the art of aligning his breath with his intentions, so that every word he uttered was carried on a wave of pure and selfless love, which is the most resonant frequency in the universe. This reminds everyone that the technical perfection of our speech, the grammar, the vocabulary, and the tone, is merely the body of the message, while the spirit of the message is the intention that resides in the heart. When we speak with a hidden motive, such as the desire to manipulate, to impress, or to deceive, the body of our speech may look beautiful, but the spirit is heavy and dull, and people can instinctively feel the discordance even if they cannot quite name it. But when the intention is to serve, to heal, and to connect, our words take on a luminous quality that can penetrate even the most hardened hearts, bringing a sense of hope and a reminder of our shared divinity. In the chronicles of the ancient monasteries, there is a record of a young novice who was tasked with sitting by the gate and greeting everyone who entered with a single word of welcome, but he was told that he must mean it so deeply that the visitor would feel they had finally come home. At first, the novice found this very difficult, as his mind was often distracted by his own worries or his judgments about the appearance of the travelers, and his welcome felt hollow and repetitive. However, as the months passed, he began to see every person as a weary traveler on the long road of life, each carrying their own heavy burden of joys and sorrows, and his heart began to open with a profound sense of kinship. One afternoon, a stranger arrived who was covered in dust and looked quite fierce, yet when the novice spoke that single word of welcome, the stranger burst into tears, saying that it was the first time in many years that anyone had spoken to him as if he truly mattered. This story illustrates how the simplest of words can become a powerful vehicle for transformation when they are saturated with the energy of genuine presence and compassion. We often think we need to say something profound or complicated to help someone, but usually, it is the simple acknowledgement of their existence and the validation of their feelings that provides the greatest comfort. To speak with this kind of presence is to be like a clear mirror that reflects back the inherent goodness of the other person, helping them to see themselves in a light they may have forgotten, and this is perhaps the greatest gift we can offer through our speech. It requires no special education or intellectual brilliance, only a heart that is willing to be still and a tongue that is willing to be a humble servant of that stillness. Consider the way the ocean receives every river that flows into it, regardless of whether the water is clear or muddy, just as a heart that is grounded in the Dharma can receive any kind of speech from others without being disturbed. When someone speaks to us with anger or through the fog of their own confusion, we have a choice to either react with our own anger or to be like the vast ocean, allowing their words to dissolve into the depth of our equanimity. This is not about being a passive doormat, but about having an internal space that is so vast and so stable that no external sound can truly touch our peace, allowing us to respond with a clarity that can help to de-escalate the tension. By refusing to mirror the negativity of others, we are effectively stopping the chain reaction of negative karma, and we are offering a quiet but powerful invitation for the other person to find their way back to their own center. There was once a dispute between two neighbors that had lasted for 20 years, fueled by a long history of petty insults and mutual distrust, until it seemed that their entire identities were built around their animosity for each other. A local elder, known for his gentle wit, invited both of them to help him repair a broken bridge in the village, and he instructed them that they could only communicate with each other through the use of metaphors related to the natural world. Stripped of their usual vocabulary of blame and accusation, the two neighbors were forced to find new ways to express their needs and their frustrations, speaking of blocked streams and overgrown paths instead of old grievances. Through this creative constraint, they began to see that their conflict was not an inherent part of who they were, but rather a temporary obstruction that could be cleared away with patience and a change of perspective. By the time the bridge was finished, they found that they had not only built a physical structure but also a new way of communicating that was based on the reality of the present moment rather than the ghosts of the past. This reminds us that we are often trapped by our own habitual ways of speaking, and that by deliberately choosing new and more constructive language, we can break free from the cycles of conflict that define our lives. The words we use are not just reflections of our reality, but they are also the tools we use to build that reality, and by changing our tools, we can change the entire architecture of our relationships. It is a process of constant experimentation and refinement, where we learn to use language to open doors rather than to build walls, and to foster understanding rather than to justify our separation. Think about the way a forest recovers after a fire, with the first green shoots appearing through the ash as a testament to the indestructible nature of life, which is very similar to how a relationship can heal after a period of harsh words and misunderstandings. The process of healing requires the nourishing water of honest apologies and the warm sun of patient listening, allowing the wounds of the past to slowly dissolve and be replaced by new growth. We must be careful not to keep digging up the seeds of our forgiveness with the shovels of our memory, but rather to trust in the natural intelligence of the heart to find its way back to harmony. Every word of genuine reconciliation is a vital nutrient for this healing process, providing the strength and the resilience needed to build a more authentic and lasting connection. In the old scrolls, there is a description of a voice that is like the sound of a distant bell echoing in a quiet valley, a voice that brings a sense of vastness and clarity to everyone who hears it. This quality of voice is not about the pitch or the volume, but about the spaciousness of the mind from which the voice originates, a mind that is free from the clutter of self-absorption and the noise of constant craving. When we speak from this spaciousness, our words have a way of putting things into perspective, helping others to see their own challenges as small parts of a much larger and more beautiful landscape. It is the voice of wisdom, which does not need to shout to be heard, but instead carries a steady and quiet authority that comes from being in alignment with the truth of things as they are. As you move through your life, you might find it useful to notice how much of your speech is driven by the desire to be understood, versus the desire to understand others, and to see if you can shift the balance toward the latter. When we listen with the intent to understand, our own speech naturally becomes more relevant and more helpful, as it is based on a real connection rather than just a projection of our own ideas. This is the foundation of true dialogue, a sacred space where two souls can meet and share their experiences without the need for competition or defense, creating a sense of intimacy that is the true food of the spirit. By prioritizing the quality of our connection over the quantity of our words, we can transform even the most mundane interactions into moments of profound spiritual significance. The karma of our speech is also reflected in the way we talk about those who are not present, for our words have the power to shape the reputation and the social reality of others in ways that can be either helpful or harmful. To speak well of others behind their backs is to weave a web of trust and goodwill that supports the entire community, while to spread gossip is to plant the seeds of suspicion and discord that eventually poison the atmosphere for everyone. By making a commitment to only speak of others in a way that we would be willing to say to their face, we are protecting the integrity of our own character and contributing to a culture of respect and honesty. This practice is a powerful way to guard our own heart and to ensure that we are not adding to the suffering of the world through our unconsidered words. The journey of refining our speech is a path of returning to the simplicity and the purity of our original nature, before we learn the complex games of the ego and the masks of social expectation. It is a path of unlearning the habits of judgment and the rhythms of defense, and replacing them with the natural movements of compassion and the steady pulse of truth. With every word we choose, we are making a choice about the kind of person we want to be and the kind of world we want to inhabit, and that choice is always available to us in the present moment. Let us embrace this path with a sense of joy and a commitment to the light, knowing that our voice is a sacred gift that can be used to bless the world in 1,000 different ways. Think for a moment about the silence that follows a long and meaningful walk in nature, a silence that is full of the wisdom of the trees and the peace of the flowing water, and try to bring a touch of that silence into your daily conversations. This is the silence that allows the heart to speak without words, a silence that communicates a deep and abiding respect for the mystery of life and the dignity of every living being. When we speak from this silence, our words are like the first stars appearing in the evening sky, bringing a sense of wonder and a feeling of being connected to something infinite and timeless. It is a way of living that honors the sacredness of every moment and the incredible power of the human voice to be an instrument of the divine. The vibrations of our speech are the threads that weave the tapestry of our collective destiny, and we are the weavers who have the power to create a pattern of beauty and light for the benefit of all. Let us choose our words with the care of a master artist, knowing that every syllable is a stroke of the brush and every conversation is a chance to create a masterpiece of kindness and understanding. The path is long, but every step is a destination in itself, and every word is a chance to start again, to speak a new truth, and to share the love that is the essence of our being. With every breath, let us hold the intention of being a source of clarity and comfort for all who cross our path, making our life a living testimony to the power of a kind and truthful voice. The way a mountain mist clings to the jagged peaks before being dissolved by the warmth of the ascending sun is a silent reminder that our heaviest thoughts can also vanish when met with the light of a clear and honest voice, and if you listen to the stillness of the high altitudes, you realize that the air there is pure because it is far removed from the dust of constant chatter. This purity of atmosphere is something everyone can cultivate within their own heart by learning to speak only when their words are better than the silence they are about to break, for a mind that is always leaking energy through unnecessary talk is like a vessel with a hole that can never stay full. There is an old legend about a village located at the edge of a great echoing canyon, where the people believed that every word spoken into the void would eventually travel around the world and return to the speaker's ear many years later as a physical manifestation of its original intent. Because of this belief, the villagers were incredibly careful with their language, speaking to each other with a melodic gentleness that made their daily lives feel like a continuous song, as they did not want to be met by a wall of harsh echoes in their old age. A young traveler who visited this village was puzzled by their restraint and asked why they didn't just shout their frustrations into the wind to get rid of them, but the elders explained that the wind does not take things away, it only carries them to a different place, and what you throw out into the universe always finds its way back home. This teaches everyone that our speech is not a disposable commodity that disappears the moment it leaves our lips, but rather a long-term investment in the energetic climate of our own future. When you sit in the quiet of the evening and feel a sudden sense of unexplained anxiety or a heavy heart, it may simply be the distant echoes of words you spoke in haste months or even years ago, finally returning to the source. It is helpful to realize that we can begin to neutralize these old echoes right now by releasing new vibrations of forgiveness and understanding, which act like a soothing balm on the jagged edges of our past. In the ancient tales of the desert, there was a man who found a hidden well that was said to grant a single wish to anyone who could describe their deepest desire without using the word I or the word mine. Many people failed the test because their speech was so deeply rooted in their own ego and their sense of ownership that they could not even imagine a reality that was not centered around themselves. The man who finally succeeded did so by speaking of the thirst of the earth, the needs of the thirsty animals, and the joy of the green plants that would grow if the water were allowed to flow, and as he spoke, the well overflowed with a sweetness that had never been tasted before. This story illustrates that the most powerful speech is that which transcends the narrow boundaries of the self and connects us to the larger pulse of life, for when we speak for the benefit of the whole, the entire universe listens with a different kind of attention. Our words are like the small stones used to build a path through a marshy field, and if we place them with care and integrity, we create a solid ground for ourselves and others to walk upon, but if we drop them haphazardly, we only create more obstacles and mud. Think about the times when you have been tempted to use your speech to gain a small advantage or to make yourself look better at someone else's expense, and how that small gain usually came with a lingering sense of discomfort or a subtle loss of self-respect. This is because the soul knows the value of truth and feels the weight of every deviation from it, no matter how small or seemingly insignificant the lie might be. To live with a voice that is completely transparent is to experience a level of inner freedom that is truly rare, as you no longer have to spend energy maintaining different versions of your story or worrying about being found out. There was once a student who asked a teacher how to become a master of communication, and the teacher told him to spend a day observing the way the light of the moon reflects on the surface of a moving river. The teacher explained that the moon does not try to change the river, and the river does not try to hold on to the light of the moon, yet their interaction creates a path of silver beauty that guides the traveler in the dark. Right speech is much like that moonlight, for it does not seek to control or to possess the listener, but simply to offer a steady and calm presence that illuminates the way forward without causing any disturbance. It is a form of non-attachment in action, where we share our truth and our kindness without any expectation of a specific result, trusting that the seeds we sow will grow in their own time and in their own way. When we release the need for our words to be admired or even understood, we find that our voice carries a much deeper authority, for it is no longer being filtered through the insecurities of the ego. In the high mountain retreats, the monks often practice a form of chanting that involves making a single, resonant sound for a long period, which helps to harmonize the energy centers of the body and to clear the mind of scattered thoughts. This practice reminds us that the physical sound of our voice is just as important as the meaning of the words, for the vibration itself carries a message of peace or of agitation that the body of the listener receives on a subconscious level. By speaking with a voice that is grounded in the lower abdomen and carried on a steady breath, we can communicate a sense of stability and safety that goes far beyond the intellectual content of our message. This is particularly important when we are dealing with those who are in a state of high stress or fear, as our calm tone can act like a lighthouse in a storm, helping them to find their own internal compass. Consider the way a mother hums to a child to soothe them, a language of pure vibration that bypasses the mind and speaks directly to the nervous system, offering a sense of protection and belonging. We can bring this same quality of nurturing vibration into our adult interactions, using our voice not just to exchange information but to radiate a sense of warmth and acceptance that heals the hidden wounds of the heart. The karma of speech is also reflected in the way we respond to the silence of others, for sometimes the most profound communication happens in the gaps where no words are spoken at all. To be comfortable with the silence of a friend is a sign of deep trust, a way of saying that your connection is strong enough to exist without the need for constant verbal reassurance. In those moments of shared stillness, we can often hear the deeper truths that are usually drowned out by the noise of our own opinions and our desire to fill the space. By respecting the silence of the other person, we are giving them the space they need to find their own answers and to process their own experiences, which is a very high form of compassion. There was a wise elder who once said that we were given 2 ears and only 1 mouth so that we could listen twice as much as we speak, and that the quality of our listening determines the quality of our response. When we listen with our whole body and our whole heart, our speech naturally becomes more relevant, more timely, and more infused with the wisdom that comes from true understanding. The journey of the voice is a journey of refinement, where we learn to peel away the layers of habit and the patterns of reactivity that have been built up over many years of social conditioning. It is a process of returning to the source of our own sound, a place of original innocence where speech is a spontaneous expression of joy and a natural celebration of existence. With every word we choose, we are refining our instrument and learning to play the melodies of the spirit, contributing to the great symphony of life in a way that is uniquely ours. Let us be mindful of the tone we set in our homes and our workplaces, knowing that the atmosphere we create with our words is the environment in which we and those we love must grow and thrive. A home filled with words of appreciation and encouragement is like a garden with rich soil and plenty of sun, where every person can reach their full potential and blossom in their own time. But a home filled with criticism and harshness is like a parched land where nothing can truly flourish, and where the spirit eventually becomes dry and brittle. We have the power to change the weather of our lives at any moment, simply by changing the way we speak to each other and to ourselves, choosing the warm rain of kindness over the cold wind of judgment. This is the great responsibility and the wonderful opportunity of being a human being with the gift of language, to be a conscious creator of our own emotional and spiritual climate. Let us walk this path with a sense of wonder and a deep commitment to the truth, knowing that every syllable we utter is a chance to plant a seed of peace that will eventually grow into a forest of light for the whole world. The way the moonlight rests on the surface of a sleeping lotus pond is a silent testament to the beauty of reflection, for the water does not need to move or struggle to capture the light, it simply needs to be still and clear. This quality of stillness is exactly what everyone needs to cultivate before the first thought of the day even takes shape, ensuring that the words which follow are not just a reaction to the world, but a conscious offering from a peaceful heart. If you observe the ancient trees that have stood for centuries, you realize they do not compete to be heard, they do not whisper secrets to the wind to gain favor, they simply exist in a state of profound integrity that speaks louder than any human voice. There is a forgotten tale about a kingdom where the currency was not gold or silver, but the value of the promises kept and the honesty of the words exchanged in the marketplace, and it was said that the wealthiest citizens were those whose speech was so reliable that their neighbors would build their houses based on a single verbal assurance. In this land, a person who spoke a falsehood would find that the bread they bought with those words would turn to ash in their mouth, for the vibration of the lie was fundamentally incompatible with the nourishment of the body. This tells everyone that the truth is not just an abstract moral concept, but a physical and energetic necessity for a healthy and vibrant life, as our very cells respond to the integrity of the messages we send through our nervous system. When you speak a truth that comes from the core of your being, your whole body resonates with a sense of alignment and strength, but when you speak a word that is half-hearted or deceptive, you create a subtle friction that wears away at your internal peace. There was once a young student who traveled to a remote monastery known for its gardens of vibrant, blue flowers, and he noticed that the flowers only bloomed in the areas where the monks walked in mindful silence. He spent many days trying to find the secret to their growth, thinking it must be a special fertilizer or a hidden source of water, until an elder told him that the flowers were sensitive to the vibration of the air, and that harsh or chaotic speech would cause them to wither before they could even open. The elder explained that our environment is far more sensitive to our words than we often realize, and that the beauty of our surroundings is a direct reflection of the harmony of our internal dialogue. This realization changed the way the student spoke to the smallest insect and the tallest tree, for he saw that everything in the universe is part of a grand, listening presence that responds to the quality of our energy. We are constantly broadcasting our state of mind through the radio station of our voice, and the world around us is the audience that is being shaped by our broadcast. If we want to live in a world that is beautiful and kind, we must first ensure that the sounds we contribute to the atmosphere are beautiful and kind, for we cannot harvest grapes from a field where we have only planted thorns. Consider the way a master weaver handles the fine silk threads, knowing that a single pull too hard or a moment of distraction can ruin the entire pattern of the fabric, which is very much like how a single sharp comment can tear through the delicate trust of a lifelong friendship. We often treat our words as if they are weightless and disposable, but in reality, they are the most powerful tools of construction and destruction that we possess, capable of building cathedrals of hope or ruins of despair. There was a story from the days of the early wandering teachers about a man who was so afraid of saying the wrong thing that he decided to never speak again, thinking that absolute silence was the only way to avoid creating negative karma. He lived in a cave for many years, but he found that even in his silence, his mind was still shouting with judgments, resentment, and pride, and he realized that the tongue is merely the messenger of the heart's hidden contents. The real work of right speech is not about closing the mouth, but about opening the heart to such a degree that only compassion can find a way out, for a vessel that is filled with clear water will never pour out mud, no matter how much it is shaken. He returned to his village and began to speak with a newfound gentleness, using his voice to acknowledge the suffering of others and to celebrate the small joys of the community, finding that his words now had the power to heal precisely because they were no longer being used to defend his own ego. This teaches everyone that the goal of our practice is not to become silent observers, but to become active participants who use the gift of language to nourish and uplift the collective spirit of humanity. Think about the way the earth absorbs the rain, not asking for it to fall in a certain way or questioning its purity, but simply receiving it and turning it into life, which is a perfect model for how we can learn to receive the speech of others. When someone speaks to us with bitterness or through the lens of their own pain, we can choose to be like the fertile soil, absorbing the impact without becoming hard or resentful, and allowing the energy of their words to be transformed by our own internal stability. By doing this, we are not only protecting our own peace, but we are providing a safe space for the other person to be heard, which is often the first step in their own healing process. There is a specific kind of courage required to be the one who breaks a cycle of gossip or to be the voice that speaks up for the truth when everyone else is content to stay in the shadows of comfortable lies. This courage does not come from a place of aggression or a desire to be right, but from a deep love for the integrity of life itself and a recognition that our silence can sometimes be just as damaging as a spoken word of malice. When we speak from this place of moral clarity, our voice carries a resonance that can wake people up from their slumber and remind them of their own higher potential, acting like a bell that clears the air after a long period of heavy fog. The relationship between our speech and the food we eat is also worth reflecting upon, as both involve the mouth and both are essential for our sustenance. Yet we often pay much more attention to the quality of what goes in than the quality of what comes out. If we were as careful about the words we release into the world as we are about the ingredients in our favorite meal, we would find that our lives would become much more refined and flavorful in the most spiritual sense. Every word is a kind of food for the soul of the listener, and it is our responsibility to ensure that we are serving only that which is wholesome, nourishing, and easy to digest. In the ancient times, there were poets who were said to be able to make the stones weep and the birds stop their flight just by the way they recited their verses, for they understood the hidden music of the vowels and the steady heartbeat of the consonants. This was not magic, but a profound understanding of the relationship between sound and the fabric of reality, a knowledge that we all still carry in the depths of our being. By paying attention to the rhythm and the texture of our own speech, we can begin to reclaim this poetic power, making our daily interactions a form of living art that brings a sense of grace to the most ordinary of tasks. As the journey leads everyone deeper into the forest of experience, let us remember that our voice is the compass that helps us find our way and the lantern that lights the path for those who are following behind us. We are all storytellers in the grand epic of existence, and the stories we choose to tell about ourselves and about each other determine the quality of the world we are creating. Let us choose stories of resilience, stories of forgiveness, and stories of the infinite capacity for love that exists within every human heart, ensuring that our legacy is one of light and beauty. Every breath is a fresh canvas, every conversation is an opportunity to practice the alchemy of the heart, and every word is a chance to move the universe just a little bit closer to the harmony of the divine. There is no need for perfection, only for a steady and sincere intention to be a source of goodness and a voice of truth in a world that is always listening and always responding to our call. With each new morning, let us wake up with the aspiration to speak with the clarity of the mountain air and the warmth of the rising sun, making our life a song of gratitude that resonates through the ages. The vibrations of our speech are the seeds of our future happiness, and by planting them with care and wisdom today, we are ensuring a harvest of peace and fulfillment for ourselves and for all living beings who share this beautiful journey with us. Let us hold the awareness of this sacred responsibility in every moment, treating our voice as the precious instrument it truly is and using it to celebrate the miracle of life in all its diverse and magnificent forms. This is the path of the heart, the path of the soul, and the path of a life lived with the profound understanding that our words are the very substance of our destiny. The rhythm of the tides, pulling and pushing against the shore with an ancient and tireless patience, serves as a perfect mirror for the natural flow of our communication, reminding everyone that there is a time to speak and a time to let the waves of silence wash over the sand. If you look at how the salt in the ocean preserves the life within it, you might realize that the salt of our speech is our integrity, the essential ingredient that keeps our relationships from decaying into the bitterness of resentment or the rot of distrust. There is a story from the golden age of the desert caravans about a merchant who carried a chest of precious spices, but he was most famous for the way he negotiated with his competitors, for he never once used a word that would cause another man to lose his dignity. One day, a rival merchant tried to trick him into an argument, hoping that the anger would cloud his judgment and lead him to make a mistake in their trade, but the merchant simply remained as calm as the morning star, answering every insult with a question that invited deeper reflection. He later told his sons that a person who loses their temper also loses their voice, for the sounds that come out of anger are not a true expression of the self, but merely the noise of a broken machine struggling to find its gears. This tells everyone that the true mastery of our speech is found in our ability to remain the master of our own internal house, refusing to let the chaotic energy of the outside world dictate the melody of our heart. When you find yourself in a situation where the air is thick with tension and everyone is waiting for someone to cast the first stone of a sharp remark, you have the opportunity to be the one who introduces the cool breeze of a neutral and kind observation. It is like opening a window in a room that has become stifling and dark, allowing the light of a broader perspective to enter and dissolve the heaviness of the moment. In the teachings of the old mountain masters, there was a concept called the speech of the Golden Bridge, which referred to the ability to use words to connect two opposing views without making either side feel small or defeated. This bridge is built with the stones of empathy and the mortar of common ground, and it requires a person who is more interested in the harmony of the community than in the victory of their own opinion. To speak in this way is to become a weaver of peace, someone who can see the invisible threads of fear and longing that underlie every human conflict and who can use their voice to tie those threads back into a pattern of mutual respect. Everyone possesses this innate ability, yet it is often buried under the habits of defensive posturing and the desire to be seen as right at any cost. Think about the way a single drop of morning dew can magnify the delicate veins of a leaf, showing the hidden complexity and the fragile beauty of life in a way that the naked eye often misses, which is very similar to how a word of sincere praise can magnify the hidden strengths of a friend. We often go through our days noticing only the flaws and the inconveniences, but when we use our voice to highlight the good we see in others, we are effectively acting as that drop of dew, helping them to see their own value more clearly. This is a form of spiritual nourishment that costs nothing but a moment of attention, yet it can be the very thing that sustains a person through their darkest hours and gives them the courage to keep growing. There was once a scribe who was tasked with recording the history of a great king, but instead of focusing on the wars and the conquests, the scribe chose to write only about the moments when the king spoke with mercy or when he listened with a humble heart to the complaints of his subjects. When the king read the finished scroll, he was moved to tears, for he realized that the scribe had not written about who he was in the eyes of the world, but about who he could become if he lived up to his own highest potential. This scribe understood that our words have a prophetic quality, that the way we talk about people often shapes the way they behave, and that by choosing to focus on the light, we are inviting that light to expand and to fill the spaces of our shared reality. Consider the way a river carves a path through the solid rock over thousands of years, not through force but through the steady and relentless persistence of its flow, which is a reminder of the power of our habitual speech. The small comments we make every day, the jokes we tell, the way we describe our struggles, all of these are like the water of the river, slowly carving the landscape of our own personality and the atmosphere of our lives. If we are constantly complaining about the cold or the heat, we are carving a path of dissatisfaction, but if we are constantly expressing gratitude for the breath in our lungs and the light in our eyes, we are carving a canyon of joy that can hold a vast amount of peace. In the ancient manuscripts of the forest, there is a description of a voice that is like the sound of gold being refined in the fire, a voice that has been stripped of all its impurities and its dross until only the essential truth remains. This process of refinement is something we all undergo as we learn from our mistakes, as we feel the sting of our own lies and the hollowness of our own boasts, and as we slowly decide that we would rather be authentic than impressive. It is a path of subtraction rather than addition, where we let go of the need for complex explanations and the desire for social approval, and instead find the courage to speak from the quiet center of our own being. The relationship between our speech and the physical health of our body is a profound and intimate one, for the words we speak create a chemical environment that every cell in our body must inhabit. When we speak with kindness and love, our brain releases the hormones of connection and relaxation, creating an internal climate of healing and vitality, but when we speak with bitterness, we are effectively bathing our own organs in the toxins of stress. This is why the practice of right speech is not just a moral obligation, but a fundamental act of self-care, a way of ensuring that our own internal temple is a place of health and harmony. There was a wise woman who lived by the sea and was known for her ability to heal the wounds of the mind by asking people to describe their pain using only the names of colors and the textures of the earth. By moving away from the language of logic and the stories of the ego, people were able to access a deeper level of their own experience and to see their suffering as a natural part of the shifting landscape of life. She taught that our words are like the nets of the fisherman, and if the mesh is too small, we catch everything including the rubbish, but if the mesh is just right, we only keep that which is truly valuable and life-sustaining. As the journey continues through the seasons of the soul, let us be mindful of the climate we are creating with our voice, knowing that we are the architects of the weather in our own hearts and in the hearts of those we love. Every day is an opportunity to practice the art of the gentle word, to be the voice that offers comfort in the storm and the voice that celebrates the return of the sun after a long winter. We are all learning to play the instrument of our own being, and though we may hit many discordant notes along the way, the beauty of the music lies in the sincerity of our effort and the depth of our commitment to the harmony of the whole. Every breath is a sacred vessel, every conversation is a ritual of connection, and every word is a seed that carries the potential for a more compassionate and understanding world. There is no need for grand gestures or eloquent speeches, for the most profound truths are often found in the simplest of interactions when we speak with a heart that is truly open and a mind that is truly present. With each new encounter, let us hold the intention of being a source of clarity and a voice of truth, making our life a living testimony to the incredible power of the human spirit to transcend the boundaries of the self and to touch the heart of the universe. The vibrations of our speech are the currents that carry our soul across the ocean of existence, and by choosing our words with wisdom and love, we are ensuring a voyage that is filled with purpose and grace. Let us treat our voice as the precious gift it truly is, using it to honor the beauty of life and to support the awakening of all living beings who share this magnificent planet with us. This is the path of the heart, the path of the soul, and the path of a life lived with the profound understanding that our words are the very substance of our reality, shaping the world one syllable at a time. The scent of dry pine needles baking in the afternoon sun often brings a sense of timelessness to the soul, a reminder that nature does not rush its growth nor does it ever explain its beauty, it simply exists in a state of quiet truth that we can hear if we only stop the internal noise of our own constant commentary. When looking at the way a shadow stretches across the grass, one realizes that the shadow is only possible because of the light, just as the difficult words we sometimes hear from others are often just shadows cast by their own hidden fears and unresolved pains. There is a profound story from the records of the ancient mountain travelers about a young boy who found a flute that could only produce sound if the player was thinking of someone they truly wished to forgive. Many adults in the village tried to play the instrument, hoping to show off their musical skill, but the flute remained as silent as a stone because their hearts were still cluttered with the dust of old grudges and the sharp edges of hidden resentments. It was only when the boy sat by the river and thought of a friend who had once been unkind to him, wishing that friend a life of peace and clarity, that the flute began to sing a melody so hauntingly beautiful that the birds stopped their flight to listen. This illustrates how the resonance of our voice is intimately tied to the spaciousness of our heart, for a heart that is cramped by anger cannot produce a sound that is truly free or healing. We often think that the karma of our speech is something that happens far away in the future, but it is actually a living energy that shapes the very texture of our present moment, influencing the way we feel in our own skin and the way the world reflects our own internal state back to us. When you choose to speak a word that dissolves a misunderstanding instead of one that cements it, you are effectively clearing a path through a dense thicket, making it easier for everyone to walk toward the light. In the teachings of the old masters, there was a great emphasis on the practice of the golden silence, which is not a lack of words but a quality of presence that allows the truth to emerge without the need for force or manipulation. This golden silence is like the space inside a hollow vessel, which is the only thing that makes the vessel useful, for if it were full of solid material, it could never hold the water that sustains life. By creating this same kind of space within our own minds, we allow our words to be born from a place of depth and stillness, ensuring that they carry a weight of integrity that can be felt by anyone who hears them. You might notice that when you speak from this center, your voice naturally becomes more melodic and your words more precise, as if the universe itself were helping you to find the exact vibration needed for the moment. There was once a dispute between two scholars who spent years arguing about the definition of a single word in a sacred text, each building elaborate towers of logic to prove the other wrong, until they had forgotten the original meaning of the text entirely. They eventually went to a wise woman who lived in a simple hut at the edge of the forest, and she asked them to help her carry a heavy log to her hearth so she could cook a meal for them. As they struggled together to balance the weight of the wood, their breathing became synchronized and their intellectual defenses began to soften under the reality of the physical task. When they finally sat down to eat, she told them that their arguments were like the smoke from a fire, which has no substance and is quickly carried away by the wind, while their cooperation in carrying the log was the true meaning of the word they had been debating. This story is a gentle reminder that our speech can often become a distraction from the lived reality of our connection to one another, and that the ultimate purpose of language is to facilitate the shared work of being human. When we use our voice to support, to coordinate, and to encourage, we are fulfilling the highest potential of our speech, turning it into a tool for the creation of harmony and the reduction of suffering. Consider the way a master gardener talks to the plants, not because they expect a verbal answer, but because they understand that every living thing is sensitive to the vibration of care and the energy of focused attention. Our words are like the sunlight and the water that we provide to the people around us, and by being mindful of the quality of that nourishment, we can help those we love to flourish in ways that are truly miraculous. If we offer only the cold shadow of criticism, the spirit of the other person will eventually retreat into its own shell, but if we offer the warmth of sincere appreciation, they will open up and reveal their own unique fragrance to the world. In the ancient scrolls of the temple, there is a mention of a voice that is like the sound of a clear bell rung in the middle of a snowy night, a voice that brings a sense of purity and awakening to a world that is often lost in the sleep of habitual patterns. This quality of speech is available to anyone who is willing to do the work of internal purification, which simply means letting go of the need to use words as a way to control the environment or to protect the ego. It is a path of radical honesty, where we learn to say what is true without the need to be harsh, and to say what is kind without the need to be dishonest. The karma of our speech is also found in the way we talk about the future, for our words act as a kind of blueprint that guides our expectations and our actions toward a specific destination. If we are constantly speaking of disaster and failure, we are effectively building a house on a foundation of sand, but if we speak of possibility, resilience, and hope, we are building a structure that can weather any storm. This is not about blind optimism, but about a conscious choice to focus on the seeds of goodness that are always present, even in the most difficult of circumstances, and to use our voice to water those seeds until they grow. There was a woman who was known for her ability to calm the most violent of storms by singing a simple lullaby to the waves, for she understood that the chaos of the world is often just a reflection of the chaos in the human heart. By bringing her own heart into a state of profound peace and expressing that peace through her voice, she was able to harmonize the elements and bring a sense of safety to everyone around her. This teaches us that we are not helpless in the face of the world's troubles, but that we possess a powerful instrument of transformation in our own voice, provided we have the courage to use it with love. As the journey winds through the valleys and over the peaks of human experience, let us remember that every word we speak is a signature that we are leaving on the heart of the universe, a record of our passage through this life. By choosing words that are clear, kind, and true, we are creating a legacy of light that will continue to shine long after we have moved on to other realms. We are all participants in a grand and beautiful symphony, and our voice is the unique melody that we contribute to the whole, a melody that can either add to the beauty of the music or create a jarring discord. Every breath is an invitation to start again, to refine our song, and to speak from the deepest part of our own being with a sense of wonder and a commitment to the truth. There is a quiet joy that comes from knowing that your speech is a reflection of your own inner integrity, a joy that is not dependent on the approval of others or the success of your plans. With each new day, let us hold the intention of being a source of clarity and a voice of peace, making our life a living testimony to the power of a heart that is truly open and a tongue that is a humble servant of the light. The vibrations of our speech are the threads that weave the tapestry of our collective destiny, and by choosing our words with wisdom and love, we are helping to create a world that is more compassionate, more understanding, and more filled with the grace of the divine. Let us treat our voice as the sacred gift it truly is, using it to celebrate the miracle of existence and to support the awakening of all living beings who share this magnificent journey with us. This is the path of the soul, a path that leads us ever closer to the heart of the truth and the source of all peace, one word at a time, one breath at a time. The soft glow of the embers in a dying fire often holds a deeper warmth than the brightest flame, for it represents a heat that has moved beyond the crackling noise of initial excitement into a steady and enduring presence, much like the way a life of mindful speech eventually settles into a quiet authority that needs no volume to be felt. When everyone realizes that the air we breathe is the same air that carries the vibrations of every prayer, every laughter, and every word ever spoken, the simple act of exhaling becomes a moment of profound responsibility and sacred connection. There is an ancient chronicle about a traveler who reached the end of a very long bridge that spanned a misty chasm, and at the end of the bridge stood a silent gatekeeper who did not ask for a passport or gold, but instead asked the traveler to recount one single moment in their life where a word they spoke had truly mended a broken spirit without expecting anything in return. The traveler stood in the silence of the high mountains, searching through the library of his memories, and he realized that the moments he had once thought were his greatest speeches were actually the ones where he was only trying to make himself look wise, while the moment that actually opened the gate was a simple, quiet sentence of genuine encouragement spoken to a stranger who had lost hope. This teaches everyone that the final measure of our speech is not found in the archives of our successes or the logic of our arguments, but in the invisible traces of comfort we leave behind in the hearts of others as we pass through their lives. When you speak from a place where the self has been set aside, your voice becomes a conduit for a much larger intelligence, a rhythm that matches the steady heartbeat of the earth and the silent expansion of the stars. In the quiet hours before the dawn, when the world is suspended between what was and what will be, you can feel the potential of your own voice as a clean slate, a chance to decide what kind of energy you will contribute to the collective atmosphere of the coming day. We often think of our karma as a heavy chain, but it is actually more like the scent of a flower that lingers in a room long after the flower is gone, a subtle influence that can be changed the moment we decide to plant a different kind of seed. There was once a group of monks who lived in a valley where the echoes were so perfect that a single word would repeat for 7 days, and they learned to live with such a high degree of awareness that they only spoke when they were certain they could live with that sound for an entire week. This practice of living with the echoes of our own speech is what we are all doing, whether we realize it or not, for the world is a mirror that eventually reflects our own vibration back to us in the form of our circumstances and our relationships. To speak with the awareness of these echoes is to live with a sense of dignity and grace, knowing that we are the creators of our own internal and external landscape through the power of our choices. You might notice that as you become more refined in your communication, you find a new kind of joy in the simple act of naming things with kindness, as if you were blessing the world every time you spoke the name of a tree, a bird, or a friend. Consider the way the sky remains vast and untouched regardless of how many clouds pass through it or how many birds fly across its expanse, which is the perfect model for the mind of a person who has mastered the karma of speech. We can allow the thoughts and the impulses of the world to move through us without clinging to them, ensuring that our voice remains as clear and as spacious as the morning sky, even in the midst of the most difficult circumstances. This state of non-attachment allows us to speak the truth with a level of objectivity and compassion that is truly transformative, for it is no longer being filtered through the narrow lens of our personal likes and dislikes. There was an old story of a woman who found a spring of water that tasted like whatever the drinker was feeling at the moment, and she noticed that those who were full of bitter words found the water to be sour, while those who spoke with love found it to be as sweet as honey. She realized that the world itself is that spring, and that the quality of our experience is always determined by the quality of the energy we are putting out into it through our thoughts and our speech. By choosing to speak with a heart that is full of gratitude and a tongue that is a servant of the truth, we are effectively sweetening the water of our own lives and the lives of everyone who drinks from the same well. The relationship between the breath and the word is the most intimate of all, for every word is literally a piece of our life force that we are releasing into the universe, a fragment of our own energy that can never be reclaimed. When we see our speech as a precious resource that is being spent every time we open our mouths, we naturally become more careful and more intentional with our syllables, ensuring that we are getting a good return on our investment in terms of peace and harmony. This is the essence of a life lived with purpose, where every interaction is seen as a sacred opportunity to practice the art of being human and to contribute to the healing of the world. Think about the way the light of the sun travels through the darkness of space to bring warmth to the earth, never questioning if the plants are worthy of its rays or if the mountains will appreciate its glow. Our voice can be like that sunlight, a constant source of warmth and clarity that shines on everyone without discrimination, reflecting the infinite compassion that is at the core of our being. By letting go of the need to judge who deserves our kindness and who does not, we become a channel for a much higher form of speech, a voice that speaks for the benefit of all living beings and that honors the divine spark in every soul. As the journey of these reflections comes to a quiet rest, let it be remembered that the path of right speech is a lifelong dance of awareness, a continuous process of waking up to the power of our own presence in every moment. There is no finish line to reach, only a steady and deepening sense of alignment with the truth of things as they are, and a growing capacity to share that truth with love and grace. Every word you choose from this moment forward is a chance to start a new story, to heal an old wound, and to build a bridge of understanding that can withstand the tests of time and change. The vibrations of your voice are the music of your soul, and by tuning your instrument to the frequency of compassion, you are contributing to a symphony that has the power to harmonize the entire universe. Let your speech be a reflection of the peace you have found within, a gentle invitation for others to find their own way home to the stillness of their own hearts. In the quiet spaces between your words, may you always find the presence of the light, and may your voice be a lantern that guides everyone toward the shore of understanding and the ocean of infinite love. The path is always open, the air is always waiting for your sound, and the heart of the world is always listening for the truth that only you can speak in the way that you speak it. With every breath, with every syllable, and with every silent moment of awareness, you are participating in the magnificent work of creation, making the world a more beautiful and more luminous place for everyone. Rest in the knowledge that your efforts are never in vain, for every kind word is a seed of eternity that will bloom in the garden of the collective consciousness for generations to come. As the sun sets and the day is gathered into the arms of the night, let your last thoughts be words of gratitude for the gift of this life and the incredible power of the human voice to be an instrument of the divine. The journey continues in the silence of the stars and the dreams of the sleeping earth, a flow of energy that knows no beginning and no end, carried on the wings of a truthful and loving heart. Every interaction is a blessing, every word is a prayer, and every moment is a chance to live in the light of the Dharma, sharing the beauty of the soul with a world that is always ready to receive it.